Yo, man, what it is and what it ain't, man. It's your boy BL Ratchet, man, back again. We Are Florida podcast, but you know we on the We Are Florida tour, man. We had to stop at the Mighty Brick House. You know these like brothers to me. Every time I come up to Jacksonville, they show me a great time. You know what I'm saying? But we've been doing interviews all day, but we done bumped into somebody so lovely.
Thank you. My name is Jen. I'm known as Jen. I'm Gina. But everybody in the city know me as Gen X, the filmmaker. So That is what I do.
Well, how did you get into that? And welcome to the show.
Thank you. Well, back in 2008, I started to film. That was my first film. I got into filming, going to school and stuff. I was very young, but I kind of got out of school and I was like, I'm just going to go for it, right? I was tired of it. I was like, let's just do it. Let's figure out how to do this. So it's always shocking to people because I actually went to the library and just bought a whole bunch of books. And started reading everything and watching like behind the scenes documentaries of like Martin Scorsese and like certain directors, and they'd be behind the scenes. They show, and I'm just taking notes. So then I'm like, okay, I want to make a film. I want to write a film. So I wrote a film, and people don't know this, but at first it was Queenpin. And then just something in me was like, I think it would do better and be a little twist if it was a lady. So I named it Queenpin. And so around 2010, I started filming it. And R.I.P. to Miss Dynasty, R.I.P. to Mob Boss. Let me put that out. Both of them starred in that film. So this was back in 2010. I did Queenpin 1. Then Mob Boss ended up passing, which was unfortunate. And Miss Dynasty, who was the star of that film, and the Queen of Duval, ended up passing. And, it kind of set me back for a little bit. And then I did Queenpin 2, and that was around 2015. And then I took a long break after that, just with life. And then around 2020, when it was right before the pandemic started, we started shooting. And then I did Baker's Union, and that's starring Nod Ross, the comedian Nod Ross here, and a big comedian out of Miami called Fat and Funny. Well, that's his title. He's kitchen, but on his page it's Fat and Funny. So those two are the leading stars in those films. And then I have a film dropping July 11th called Cookies and Cream, and that's a strip club type film in the South. So it's kind of like a modern day, old school Players Club, that we used to watch when I was younger, but of course, more modern with a twist, and then more southern, like it's Florida. So we filming in all the Florida strip clubs, Florida music, that type of stuff. So.
Okay. Let's go a little bit back. You say you went to school. Like, was you into, like filmography school? Like, where did you take the class? Was you in the yearbook? Like, what made you want to get into, that?
You know what? It was kind of crazy because
they do got theater in class too.
Yeah, when I graduated from high school, I went into the military, and so I was actually in the Army, and I didn't want to stay. I did my 4 years or so, and I was ready to get out and come home. And I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I kept thinking about like this writing thing. So it really was more wanting to be a writer. Okay. And so when I wrote the script, I did not know how to get it out there. Like I was back home in Jacksonville. I was like, where do you in a script? Like, I didn't know anything about film or like the world. I just knew it was something I wanted to do. And so I went to Art Institute. At that time we had Art Institute here in Jacksonville, film, and they had a film, department, film major. And like I said, I started it and I should have probably went and completed it, but I got a little way, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, I don't feel like I'm I think I know enough, and I just dropped out of it. But I did start the Film Institute that was here. They don't have it any longer, but we had an Art Institute, and they had a film department.
I saw it. Okay. So you say y'all had your own film department?
Yeah, we had a campus here. It was called, I think Art Institute was somewhere everywhere. Like they were one of them kind of like trade schools. Yeah, so I think later on, like Everest University, kind of like one of those types, like Brown Mackie and Everest and DeVry, and it came a time where all of them kind of got shut down later on, but it wasn't around the time I was in. This was a while ago, but so I did. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to school for it, and I think I was just being I was young. I was like 19, 20. I was being overambitious. I was like, man, I'm finna drop out of school and just learn how to do this.
Yeah, you was being ambitious. But
yeah.
at the same time, though, look where we at now. So
right. I can say that I love the people that go to school. So I still always tell people when they ask me, like, well, what do you think? I'm like, what's best for you. Yeah. But I love the ones that go to school. A lot of my DPs, director photographers, and cinematographers and editors went to school, especially the one I think is in Tallahassee.
Yeah,
like a school out there or something. Yeah, it's like a film school out there. So a lot of them have been to school, and I always can see the difference. So I feel like it's good to do both. But you have the directors like a Tyler Perry and certain ones that just jumped out the gate, and then I have you have Spike Lee, who I look up to, where he went to school. So it kind of depends. It's up to you.
When you were a lot younger, how did you look at Hollywood coming up, getting into the film business and everything like that?
I actually wanted to be, when I was young, more in front of the camera. I wanted to be an actress, and so I kind of wanted to be a mogul. So I liked acting, but then I like writing music. I just always was coming up with business ideas, fashion, so I just knew really early. I would always walk around and say, I want to be like Oprah. I want to be like Oprah. And they would be like, well, what does that mean? And I would say, well, she's a business. She do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, she do a little bit of everything.
I would be like, she do a little bit of everything. Like she's a she do everything. I didn't know it was called a mogul or what it was. Yeah. I just knew. I was watching her, and I'm like, she acts, she this, she that, she own businesses, and I just kept telling everybody, I want to be like Oprah. So I knew in some way, somehow, I wanted to get in that industry, in some way. You know what I'm saying? So.
Okay. So you writing this first script. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people can get discouraged because they'll take it to certain, places and get denied. You know what I'm saying? Has that ever happened?
Oh, yeah. After I actually made Queenpin, I felt like, I made this movie. And that was kind of my goal. I was like, I know it's indie, and I know it's kind of, quote unquote, what people would call hood movie or whatever. But I was like, I'm going to make it, and I'm going to be able to take it out there and at least show the higher, the bigger, well, this is what I can do with hardly no money or a little bit, smaller budget. Imagine what I could do if y'all gave me a budget. And it did not work out like that. I was denied pretty much, and it kind of hurt my ego, and then I was denied in my own city, so I was denied among my peers, so it hurt, it bruised my ego for a little bit, but I just kept going. I was like, every time I would try to stop, something would pull me towards it, because it was just like, it would just be like, this is what you love to do. So I reached a point where I said, you know what, even if I don't get rich off it or famous off of it, that creative force, that creative thing gives me my energy. It gives me my life force. Yeah. But all you gotta do is keep going, though. Your catalog gonna, show amongst everybody else. And she been doing this shit. You had to watch one of her shits, even if you say you didn't. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and that's the thing. I realized as time went on how many of my actors would come to me and say, Gina, I was in Puerto Rico, or I was in Colorado, crazy places, or, places far off, or they say I had a cousin and they're in Cincinnati, and they called me and said, are you in this movie called Queenpin? We love this fucking movie. And that's when it hit me that, it's like that what that Bible verse say, you'll be sometimes denied in your own city. You know what I'm saying? But it showed me how much reach. I had people from Africa reaching out to me on Twitter and stuff. Army people that was in Afghanistan out there fighting the war, but they was getting bootleg. And I was discouraged too because they got bootleg so bad. This was around that bootleg era, and I kept saying, don't bootleg, because I got to make money off of it. And it got by the time it hit the streets, them bootlegs, they was on it. You know what I'm saying? But it brought a lot of awareness to it. It went crazy. I had certain people, which is unfortunate, that was in the film, even go to prison, feds. And they would be like, man, I'm on the yard. They could walk up to me and tell me, ain't you in that Queenpin movie? You know what I'm saying? And so I was like, wow, it did reach people. So even though I may have felt like, I realized as time went on how many people it reached and how many people loved it, and it didn't have to be friends and family or, right there in my backyard.
For sure.
So I would tell anybody like, you know, your friends and family is not always your fans, and your local is not always your fans, you know. You know, go everywhere.
Go everywhere. Tap into everything.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
So, what some of the platforms do you be distributing your movies on?
Now, most of them at this point are mainly on Tubi and Amazon. Baker's Union is on Peacock TV. Queenpin was actually one of the first films on Netflix, because that's how old.
Yeah, Queenpin.
So Netflix had just started, you know, so they were taking. They were kind of doing like Tubi was doing.
Yeah.
They would take.
I remember when Netflix first started, but they had a local show, right? Before you even explain all of that, right? They had this local show. It was in my city. It was called Pervert Park, right?
Okay.
It was one of the first shows on Netflix. Swear to God, you can look it up.
Okay.
But they took that shit off like first quarter because it was supposed to be about a trailer park full of perverts. But this was
funny.
No, it wasn't funny. It was like a documentary. You get what I'm saying? They was documenting the life of when they get out of jail.
When they got out of prison, they got to go to this.
Yeah, they got to go to this damn place because they can't be X amount of feet from school, X amount of church, whatever the case may be.
Gotcha.
So Netflix went down there and documented all that shit, but they got a lot of backlash from shit like that. So I remember when Netflix was putting all like, you know, local movies on that shit and shit like that.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely remember that for sure. Right. But you know, for a young filmmaker, you know what I'm saying, trying to just write their first script or whatnot, but not sure how to start that motherfucker or how to, you know, piece it together or whatnot. Like, what's some advice you can give to them?
Well, you know, back when I was doing it, like I said, I don't know. I've been a writer since young. Yeah. So I wrote my first probably poem and raps and all that like 8 years old. So, you know, it's kind of in me, you know, but when I get ready to write, I say, you know, I just kind of sit there and, you know, I let God in. Okay. And I just say, you know, show me what to write. But, you know, I would tell somebody, start from the end, you know, write out the basics. You know, don't go into like the scripts and dialogue, and I just write, you know, the basic kind of synopsis. Like if I was explaining it to you, this is what happened to the guy, and it, you know, all the way to the end, without the whole. Write that out first, and then, you know, because you know now the beginning and you know the end. Mm-hmm. So all you need to do is now fill in the middle. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. And y'all got ChatGPT.
Yeah, so definitely got ChatGPT.
I didn't have, so y'all.
For sure, definitely got ChatGPT. That shit helps a lot with a lot of different stuff. Right. So a lot of people now is using it. I wouldn't say probably, you know, use it for, you know, an entire film if you got some, you know. Mm-hmm. If you want, you know, if you know you can write and stuff like that, but I would say use it to help. You know, a lot of people, you know, they don't like the AI stuff, but I'm like, why work harder if you can work smart? You know, if it's there for you to help you. If it's there for you, if it's there to help you, then let it help you. You definitely gotta work. Right. But I know you say you touch on hood films or whatnot, but what about other type of, you know, genres? Honestly, the crazy thing is I'm working on a film in different genres now. That is my ultimate goal. I think I just kind of got stuck, you know, kind of in like a niche or like a category. Once I made it, it became such a hood classic. People just wanted me to make another Queenpin and another Queen. I was like, okay, you know, but, you know, I think it's what people know me for, but I've always told people like, that wasn't the total goal. Like, I have other stuff. Yeah. But now I'm finally getting an opportunity to write and make other stuff. So I'm happy about that. For sure. Have you thought about writing a book? I have wrote a book, and it's going to be coming out soon. I'm actually working on the audio book because I'm going to be doing my own. I'm doing my own audio voiceover for it. So that takes time. I didn't know, you know, that's another venture I didn't know about. You know, I knew how to write a book, but I didn't know, you know, how to do an audio, you know, book. So... But I do have something like, and it's different. It's actually a urban, you know, book, but it's a fantasy novel. So it's about like a record label, but inside this record label is like secretly like vampires and all of this. So it's different. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I get to like, you know, play on it. Like, and I like that. For sure. What about biopics? I have thought about it. I've actually had some local people come to me about possibly biopics. I have my own that I would love to do one day when I get to that level, like Earth the Kid and certain people. But
I've had some local people come to me about it. Like even in Miami, I've had some people come to me, like especially but still kind of in that, you know, gangster territory. You know, it's usually like the OG, you know, the old gangsters that, you know, was known or had a big name in Miami or here and there, you know, and they've reached out to me about like doing a biopic or doing something for them. So,
Okay.
like Bo Diddley.
Yeah, I know Bo Diddley.
Yeah, like I might be working on something with him possibly if, you know. So, yeah.
Okay. For sure. So how could somebody, you know what I'm saying, possibly act in your movie?
If they follow me, I always put out when I'm casting, like on my social medias. I'm not big on social media, but I'm getting better. You know, because I was so behind the scenes. I was kind of like, you know, old school with it, the way you would cast and stuff. You know, so in the midst of that, social media started getting, you know, super popular. And I was asking somebody, I'm like, I got to get better with this social media. Yeah. So I'm doing that. But, you know, I'm going to be putting it on there. So, like, my Instagram, you know, all that. That'd be, you know, I always put out flyers, you know, for casting. So, like, even Queenpin 3, I'm working on this summer, and I'm casting. Okay. So, I'm going to be, you know, I already did some casting in Atlanta, Orlando. So
that's why I was just about to ask you, do you go to different areas?
Yeah, now for this one I did. Okay. I ain't going to lie. Now, with Queenpin 1 and 2, you know, Queenpin 1 I just did here. Queenpin 2, I kind of used most of the cast from 1. Baker's Union, I probably did 2 people. You know, I did Fat and Funny, and he was in Miami. You know, I cast him, but he didn't cast. You know, he's already who he is. So I just, you know, I picked him. And then I cast another young lady that was like in Tampa.
Okay.
So yeah, but with Queenpin 3, you know, I purposely was like, I want to give other people a chance. I want to see what else is out there.
For sure. You got
besides just locally. And
you might got to put me in the movie.
Right. I'm like, I want to see. So I went to Atlanta. I went to Orlando. I'm going to do still Jacksonville. I want to do probably a little bit somewhere up north. You know, I just want to branch out and see. Because I'm like, I have people reach out to me from afar. And I'm like, well, I'm here. You know, but I said, I'm going to start reaching out to other places, you know, and putting it online so then if I can get it out there, other people can now. You know, something like a podcast, you know, like y'all blog or something. Then a lot of people in Florida would know. So then, if, you know, they can come to me, they can virtually, they can send in a, you know, send in their headshots, send in their, you know, pictures, they, you know, hey, was, you know. Okay. So I want to give people that opportunity. I have so many people watch them and they say, how can I get in them? And I'm like, you know, well, you're not in my city, so you probably didn't see. You know, when I was casting or auditioning, so.
For sure. Do you got a favorite movie?
My favorite movie? Oh goodness, I love so many movies. My favorite movie is What's Love Got to Do With It?
What's Love Got to Do With It? With Ike and Tina?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think as a little girl, that was my favorite movie.
I liked that movie too, though, I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite movies.
It was over the top a little bit, but I liked it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty dramatic.
Yeah, I love it though.
Now I love drama films.
Yeah, sure. That's why I said I want to get into other stuff. Cause
did you watch the Black and Beauty?
I watched the first season. I haven't had a chance to watch the second season.
Okay. For sure. So like collabing with, like, you know, people as big as like Tyler Perry or, you know, other film directors that just, you know, big, that's just doing their thing or whatnot, you know, is that something like a dream of yours?
Oh yeah, I would love to work with like all of them. I think especially like the Tyler Perry's, Spike Lee is one of my favorites. Like since a little girl, Do the Right Thing, I've just looked up to him so much. So Spike Lee, like a lot. Tyler Perry, great. I think he's so funny. I love Jordan Peele. I love all of them. I think I just, you know, I watch, you know, that's my thing. So I'm always following them and watching what they, you know, all the directors, even the new ones, like even ones that I've never heard of. If they come out and make something dope, dope come on TV, my first instinct is, who's the director? Who wrote this? You know, who? And then I'll go and do my research. Yeah, I want to see.
Do you pay attention to like the movie awards, because you know they have all types of movie awards that people don't even be knowing about. Even like the indie movie awards and all that little different stuff. Do you pay attention to all of that?
I have. When I did Queenpin, I actually won 3 awards.
Okay.
And then with Baker's Union, I won a LOL, like a comedy award. So I'm starting. I said I know with this film that's dropping July 11th, Cookies and Cream. I am actually putting it in some film festivals and stuff. So I'm going to like the Detroit Film Festival and and things like that. So I'm getting more into that because that's also where my peers are.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I gotta be in a building. Like I gotta start showing.
See,
my
I learned that was like, okay, that's the route. That's the route for the film directors to take or whatnot, especially if they're trying to get out there, get known or whatnot. But is there anything else, you know what I'm saying, that you got new that you might not have brung up on the podcast?
Like I said, I'm gonna be casting for Queenpin 3.
Okay.
And then Cookies and Cream is coming out. I'm gonna be actually filming another project. It's kind of small, but I think we're gonna be filming it around like August. So that's gonna be another project. And then Cookies and Cream is being turned into a series.
Okay.
So when it gets turned into a series, that's definitely gonna open the door for way more like casting. I'm gonna definitely need people then. Even if it's from extras to major roles. Like so, that I'm gonna be opening up that soon. But I wanted to drop first and focus on me doing it. Me marketing it like the rent do, getting it out there. Letting everybody know, because I want from this point on everything to be as big as, Queenpin.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I gotta put that work in.
Well, we definitely appreciate you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying?
Thank you for having me.
Hopefully by next time we do a podcast, we done made a movie.
And you in something, right?
Yeah,
okay, you want to get in something? You gotta be ready.
For sure, we gonna be ready. You gotta teach me.
That's what I'm saying. You gotta be ready. But I'm able to work with you. For
sure. But we definitely appreciate it. Let them know they can follow you and everything.
Okay, you can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is Gina_Jenny, Jen_. I think I'm also on Facebook as Gina. And I think that's it. I think those are my only 2 social medias. Like I said, I gotta get better.
Yeah, you gotta get more out there. Get somebody to do it for
I
you.
know. I might have to get a social media manager, whatever they call it.
Yeah, social media manager. But we definitely appreciate you. We are Florida Podcast, tapping in, tapping out. Let's go.